Welcome in, everybody. Get ready for a deep dive into Irish history. More specifically, a pivotal moment that I think you're going to find fascinating.
A fascinating and tragic one.
Yes.
Definitely both. You've provided some really compelling source material on the IRA's attack on the RUC barracks in Brookeborough.
Brookeborough, New Year's Day, 1957.
Right, and we're going to look closely at the deaths of two IRA volunteers that night, Sean South and Fergal O'Hanlon.
Two names that became synonymous with this event.
Absolutely, and what's so interesting about this story is that this attack, while a tactical failure,
A failure.
it almost instantly transformed these men into martyrs for the cause.
It's incredible how that happens, isn't it?
It is. It became this potent symbol of resistance. And we're going to explore exactly how that happened. But
Okay, but before we get into all of that,
yeah.
we need to set the stage a little bit.
Okay.
So we're talking 1950s Ireland,
Right?
a divided nation, tensions simmering.
Definitely.
Can you give us a snapshot of that political landscape?
Okay, so imagine a country split in two. You have Northern Ireland, which remains part of the United Kingdom.
Right.
And then you have the Republic of Ireland in the south, which had declared independence back in 1949.
So two very different entities on the same island.
Right? And this division was a source of deep resentment for many, especially the nationalist community.
Those who wanted a unified Ireland.
Exactly. They yearned for a unified Ireland, and this desire for unification was met with resistance from those who wanted to maintain ties with Britain.
Primarily the Protestant Unionists.
Yes, primarily the Protestant Unionists. It was a very volatile situation.
You have these two sides, each deeply entrenched in their beliefs.
Right, and caught in the middle of all of this is the IRA.
So where does the IRA fit into all of this?
They saw armed struggle as the only way to break this political deadlock and achieve a unified Ireland.
So they're the ones who are going to try and force the issue.
Yes. They launched the border campaign in December of 1956,
Okay.
targeting symbols of British authority in Northern Ireland.
And their goal is what? To provoke a response, just to disrupt?
Disrupt the government, provoke a response, and ultimately inspire a nationalist uprising.
Okay, so now we're talking about the border campaign. This is a term that we should probably define for our listener.
Yeah, you're right. The border campaign lasted from 1956 to 1962.
Okay.
And it was the IRA's attempt to use guerrilla warfare to destabilize Northern Ireland.
We're talking hit-and-run attacks.
Exactly, hit-and-run attacks, trying to force the British government to the negotiating table.
It sounds like a really risky strategy.
Oh, it was very risky. They were relying on these small mobile units to strike quickly and disappear.
Against a much larger and better equipped adversary.
Absolutely, and this was actually a common tactic.
For resistance movements at the time.
Yeah, think about the struggles for independence happening across the globe after World War II. Vietnam, Algeria, Kenya.
Yeah, right.
All these movements often relied on similar tactics.
Using their knowledge of the terrain.
Yeah, and the element of surprise.
So the IRA is drawing on their own history of rebellion and adopting a similar approach.
They are.
Okay, so within this larger campaign, why choose the Brookeborough barracks?
Right.
What made this seemingly small outpost a target?
It might seem like a random choice,
Yeah?
but it was actually quite strategic.
Okay.
First, its location, Brookeborough, was in Fermanagh,
Okay.
a county with a strong nationalist majority.
Hmm.
Attacking it was a symbolic strike at the heart of British control in a sensitive area. And second, from a practical standpoint,
Yeah.
this rural barracks was relatively isolated and lightly defended.
So it made it vulnerable to a well-planned assault.
Exactly.
Okay, so they were carefully choosing their battles,
Yeah,
aiming for maximum impact.
exactly.
Now let's talk about the two men at the heart of this story.
Okay.
You mentioned Sean South and Fergal O'Hanlon.
Right.
And from what I've read, they were very different individuals.
Oh, absolutely. South was a complex figure, devout Catholic, a writer, a thinker. He saw the fight for a united Ireland as a moral imperative.
Almost a religious duty, it sounds like.
Yeah, almost a religious duty. He brought a level of intellectualism and spiritual conviction to the cause.
And O'Hanlon?
O'Hanlon was much younger, only 20 at the time,
Yeah.
and driven by a more romantic vision,
Okay.
this idea of heroic action, risking everything for a noble ideal.
So different motivations, but fighting side by side.
Exactly.
One of the things that really struck me reading through this material was the meticulous planning that went into this attack.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't some spontaneous thing.
No, not at all. They were under the command of Sean Garland,
Okay.
a seasoned IRA volunteer known for his tactical skills. For weeks leading up to the attack, they gathered intelligence, secured weapons.
Wow.
They even practiced their movements, all under this cloak of secrecy.
They knew it was risky, though, right?
Oh, they knew it was risky, but they were determined to make a statement.
Yeah.
They were.
So it's New Year's Day, 1957.
Okay.
The scene is set for this daring raid.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about what happened that night?
Okay, so picture this. A small group of IRA volunteers approaching the Brookeborough barracks under cover of darkness.
Under cover of darkness.
It's pouring rain.
Adding to the challenge.
Oh, absolutely. Making an already dangerous mission even more challenging. And they're relying on explosives to breach the barracks walls.
Okay.
But almost immediately, things start to go wrong.
What happens?
The heavy rain had dampened the fuses,
Oh, no.
causing delays and forcing the volunteers to improvise.
So they have to change plans on the fly.
Yeah, they start firing on the barracks to keep the RUC officers pinned down.
Okay.
But this alerted nearby residents
Uh-oh.
and potentially reinforcements.
So it's just a chaotic situation.
You have total chaos, and tragically, it was about to take a devastating turn.
And this is where the story takes on a whole new dimension. And we'll dive into that in just a moment. But first, I think our listener would be interested in hearing a little bit more about how these deaths, which could have been seen as a setback, became such a powerful symbol for the IRA.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating study in how individual stories,
Yeah.
can be elevated within larger historical narratives.
Right.
And in this case, you have the deaths of these two men in a botched attack,
Right.
almost instantly becoming a rallying cry for the Republican cause.
Yeah, and I'm curious about the why there.
Yeah.
Was it simply the fact that they died for the cause, or was there something more at play?
I think there are a few factors that kind of amplify the impact of their deaths.
Okay.
First, their funerals were these massive public events,
Huge.
attended by thousands
Huge thousands.
and heavily covered by the media.
Oh, wow.
And this turned them into symbols of defiance against British rule almost overnight.
So the IRA was very effective at using these events to further their cause.
Absolutely. The IRA was very skilled at propaganda.
Yeah.
They knew how to leverage these types of events to gain sympathy and support.
So they presented South and O'Hanlon as martyrs,
Exactly.
highlighting their commitment to a unified Ireland.
Yes.
Did this resonate with the public, though?
It did.
Were people receptive to this?
Yeah, it definitely struck a chord with those who already sympathized with the IRA.
Okay.
The goal of a unified Ireland. And the image of these two young men, one a devout Catholic intellectual,
Right.
the other a fiery idealist,
Yeah.
sacrificing their lives, it fueled a sense of outrage and determination among many nationalists.
Have you been in Limerick green, and through those woods and valleys, where often Sean did gaze upon the beauty of his country?
Yeah, it's incredible how these personal tragedies can be woven into this larger political narrative.
Yeah, and it wasn't just through speeches and rallies.
Right.
Art played a powerful role as well.
You're talking about the ballad,
Yeah.
Sean South of Gary Owen?
Exactly. Sean South of Gary Owen. It became an instant anthem,
Wow.
spreading like wildfire across Ireland and even further afield.
Carried by Irish immigrants?
Exactly, by Irish immigrants. And it captured the raw emotion of the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sense of loss, but also the defiance.
The commitment to carry on the fight. It's
Totally.
really powerful.
Yeah.
I get chills just thinking about it.
It was on a 3-week New Year's Day as the shades of night came down, and down below the volunteers approached the bars of town. There were men from Dublin and from Cork, Fermanagh and Tyrone, but the leader was a Limerick man, Sean South from Garryowen. And as they moved along the street up to the barrack door, they scorned the danger they would meet foiled their daring plans. He spied them through the dawn. The stern guns and the rifle shots, a hail of death came down. And as the awful night was past, 2 men lay cornerstone. There was one from near the border and one from Garyon. No more he will hear the seagulls try or the murmuring Shannon tide. For he fell beneath an ardent sky, oh, Hannan by his side. He's gone to join that gallant band of Plunkett, Pierce and Torn. Another marker for old Ireland, shot south from Garyon. Another marker for old Ireland, shot south from Garyon.
The power of music to move people, to inspire action.
It's remarkable.
It's remarkable, but beyond its emotional impact, did the ballads serve a more strategic purpose for the IRA?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The ballad romanticized the attack and the sacrifice of South and O'Hanlon.
Okay.
It presented them as these heroic figures fighting against oppression.
Okay.
And this kind of narrative, set to a haunting melody,
Yeah.
was incredibly effective at spreading the IRA's message.
And garnering support for their cause.
Right.
So it's almost like the ballad turned a tactical defeat into a propaganda victory.
Yeah.
It's powerful the way art can be used to shape public perception
It is.
and sway opinions.
It's a classic example of how a movement can use cultural tools to advance their political agenda.
Right.
And in this case, it was incredibly effective.
Yeah.
The ballad kept the memory of South and O'Hanlon alive,
Right.
inspiring others to join the struggle.
So it's this fascinating interplay between individual actions,
Yeah.
political movements, and the power of storytelling.
It is.
But let's not forget that beneath this grand narrative, there were real people who grieved these losses.
Yeah, that's right.
What was the impact on their families and communities?
You're right. It's important to remember the human cost of this conflict.
Yeah.
Their funerals weren't just political rallies.
Right?
They were expressions of profound grief.
Yeah.
Entire communities came to a standstill to mourn these young men,
Wow.
carrying their coffins through the streets,
It
draped in the Irish flag.
must have been incredibly moving,
Oh,
but also heart-wrenching
absolutely.
for those who knew them personally.
Their deaths left a void that couldn't be filled by any political victory
Right.
or symbolic gesture.
Right.
It's a reminder that history is made up of individual lives,
Yeah.
of families and communities forever changed by events like this.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought. We often focus on the broader historical implications,
Yeah.
but it's crucial to remember the individual stories, the
Yeah.
human toll of conflict.
Absolutely.
Their graves became pilgrimage sites.
They did.
Memorials were erected in their honor.
Right.
It speaks to how these personal tragedies resonated on a very human level,
Yeah,
even as they were woven into this larger fabric of the Irish struggle.
precisely. And this is where we see the complexities of this period in Irish history.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
on the one hand, there's admiration for the dedication and sacrifice of these volunteers.
Right.
And on the other hand, you have this stark reality of violence and the loss of life,
Yeah.
leaving families and communities shattered.
It's a reminder that history isn't just about dates and battles.
It's not.
It's about the human stories,
Yeah.
the ripple effects of actions,
Right.
and the legacy that lives on long after the events themselves.
Exactly.
And speaking of legacy, we've explored the immediate aftermath.
Right.
But what about the longer-term impact
Yeah.
of the Brookeborough attack and the deaths of South and O'Hanlon?
Yeah.
How are they remembered today?
And what lessons can we draw from their story? That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. So we've been exploring this fascinating story of the Brookeborough raid and the deaths of Sean South and Fergal O'Hanlon,
Right.
and how this event, despite being a tactical setback for the IRA, became such a potent symbol in the fight for a unified Ireland.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much ripple effect these events generated.
And, as we delve into their legacy, it's important to remember that this event took place during a time of immense political and social change.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not just in Ireland, but globally.
Right. The whole world was kind of grappling with the aftermath of World War II.
Right.
The rise of new ideologies, shifting power dynamics.
Absolutely. It was a very turbulent time.
So within that context, how are South and O'Hanlon remembered in modern-day Ireland? Are they still seen as heroes, as martyrs for the cause?
It's a complex question.
Yeah.
I mean, their memory is undoubtedly intertwined with the broader narrative of Irish republicanism.
Right.
A movement with a long and often contentious history.
Sure.
There are those who continue to view them as symbols of courage and sacrifice, individuals who gave their lives for a cause they believed in.
Yeah.
You'll still find their images on murals, their names invoked at commemorations. Their story told as a tale of resistance against British rule.
So it sounds like their legacy is very much alive for some.
Yeah.
But I'm sensing there's more to this story.
Yeah.
Has time and perhaps the changing political landscape altered how they are perceived?
I think you're picking up on something important.
Okay.
Perspectives have definitely evolved over time.
Okay.
The peace process in Northern Ireland,
Right.
culminating in the Good Friday Agreement.
Yeah.
This has led to a reevaluation of the past. For many, particularly those who lived through the violence of the Troubles,
Right.
the use of armed struggle is seen in a very different light.
So there's a tension there between honoring their sacrifice and acknowledging the complexities of the conflict.
Exactly. How do you reconcile the idealism of these young men with the reality of violence and its consequences?
Right.
It's a question that Ireland continues to grapple with as it seeks to build a shared future.
Yeah, it's a question with no easy answers, and one that many nations and communities face as they come to terms with their own histories.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a bit, I'm curious about the impact of South and O'Hanlon's deaths on the IRA itself.
Okay.
Did their deaths ultimately strengthen or weaken the movement?
It's difficult to say for certain,
Yeah.
I mean, their deaths undoubtedly served as a rallying point in the short term.
Right.
Inspiring new recruits and fueling the flames of resistance.
Right.
But as we discussed earlier, the border campaign itself ultimately failed to achieve its objectives.
So perhaps their story is less about military victory and more about the enduring power of symbols. The way certain events and individuals can capture the imagination and inspire generations.
I think that's a brilliant observation.
Thanks.
The ballad Sean South of Garryowen is a prime example of this.
Right.
It transcends the specifics of the Brookeborough raid
Yeah.
and speaks to this broader yearning for freedom and unity.
Right.
It's a song that continues to be sung today, even as the political landscape in Ireland has transformed.
It's a reminder that history is not just about facts and dates.
It's
It's about stories.
It is.
It's about the way events resonate across time and shape our understanding of the world.
Exactly.
We've seen the dedication, the danger, the human cost of this conflict.
Absolutely.
And we've explored the complexities of their legacy, how they're remembered today, the questions their story raises about violence and sacrifice.
Yeah, I think the most important takeaway from all of this
Yeah.
is that history is not static.
Right.
It's a living, breathing entity, constantly being reinterpreted and understood in new ways.
Yeah.
The story of South and O'Hanlon continues to evolve, prompting us to ask difficult questions about the past, the present, and the future of Ireland.
What a journey this deep dive has been.
It has.
We've unpacked so much: the context of the border campaign,
Yeah.
the meticulous planning of the Brookeborough raid,
Right.
the tragic deaths of South and O'Hanlon,
Right.
and their enduring legacy.
Yeah.
It's a story that highlights the complexities of the Irish struggle,
Absolutely.
the human cost of conflict,
Right.
and the power of symbols.
Right.
But we're not finished yet.
We're not.
We want to hear from you, the listener. What resonated with you most from this deep dive?
Yeah.
How do you view the actions of these men? What lessons, if any, can we draw from their story
Yeah.
and apply to the challenges we face today?
Right.
Leave us your thoughts. We're eager to hear your perspective. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.